I didn't really understand what I was watching. I just felt like God let me in on a secret. And I emailed them and I said, this will take over the world. You have to acquire this.
Hi, and welcome to the Storia Podcast, where storytellers disrupt. I'm David Noronha.
And I am Fabiano Altamora.
And before we dive into episode 2 with our very special guest, please remember to like, subscribe, follow, and give us that 5-star review. Who are we with today, man?
We are with Katherine Warnock. Thank you, Katherine, for coming in. So, Katherine, this is part 2 of a 2-part episode with Katherine Warnock, the VP of Original Content for the Chosen series, the global phenomenon right now. Katherine, explain to us. I mean, last episode, we had the beautiful experience of you just telling us how you became this epic executive in Hollywood. But now you are part of this huge, it's not just a TV show, it's a global movement. Like, tell us how you got involved with The Chosen.
So I was head of faith and family content at MGM Film Studios under Mark Burnett and Roma Downey. And a pilot episode came across my desk, like through Facebook, I think. Like through this day, I don't know. It was just pure God. And in this industry, we watch something for 5 seconds and we know what we have and we almost entirely X out of it. It's the sad truth. I'm sorry, creatives. That's just what happens. And so I noticed that I was still watching it 30 seconds in. I noticed I was watching it 5 minutes in, 10 minutes in, I'm tearing up. I ended up watching the entire thing and I was like properly crying by the end. Before then and since then, that's never happened again, that I've watched anything longer than five seconds. And I just immediately emailed Mark and Roma and I said, you have to acquire this. I didn't even know they were I didn't know that it was a full-fledged series. I had no idea. I thought it was just I didn't really understand what I was watching. I just felt like God let me in on a secret. And I emailed them and I said, this will take over the world. You have to acquire this. To their great credit, they immediately tried to acquire it, but they were already in distribution relationship with Angel Studios at the time. And I was like, we missed a white whale. Like I was so heartbroken. I just knew we missed something giant. Skip ahead to years later. It's COVID. I'd had my 3rd baby. And I always wondered what happened because I just knew it as The Shepherd. I didn't know it as The Chosen.
Right.
Because the pilot episode's called The Shepherd. So my husband tells me, you need to watch this show. It's on an app. And I was like, I'm like Hollywood, right? I'm like, who puts a show on an app? That's so stupid. Finally, he's got really good taste and typically hates Christian content. So I was like, it's a big deal. So I finally watched it. And about 2.5 episodes in, it was like all of a sudden it was like ding, ding, ding. This is, I think, The Shepherd. So I did some research. Sure enough, it was.
Wow.
And it was at that point, it was in the beginning of releasing season 2. And it was on its way to like really gaining big momentum due to COVID. So we immediately start like paying it forward, which is what was part of the funding model originally. And it got us on some email list. So I see an opening for VP of marketing. And I was like, oh, I would die a slow death as a VP of marketing, like deleted it. Several friends sent it to me. I kept just deleting it. Then my mentor sent it to me. And I was like, okay, she must have like felt God. So I said, it'll take me 5 minutes to apply. Let me apply. So I applied. Several months later, I finally find myself in front of Brad Pello, who at the time was an executive producer. He's now the president of The Chosen, my boss. He's an amazing man. And he goes, I told them I want nobody from traditional Hollywood and I want no one that's worked in faith content before. You've done both. Why am I talking to you? And I was like, great question. And so I shared my vision of like how we need to disrupt Hollywood. He's like, I get it now. And I said, okay, now my turn. I don't want to be a VP of marketing. He goes, great. I think I already found one. He's like, let's just talk then. So he basically opened up a role for me to be a producer. As he was promoted up, I basically took his job. And it's been history ever since.
Wow.
Yeah.
Other than the obvious that I think it's hard to find quality, what some would call faith-based content, a phrase that I have mixed feelings about, but under the hood, under the apparent, why is this special? Why has it captured hearts around the world?
I always say, I said, God is desperate for us to know that we have permission to be in process. And I feel like The Chosen does that so authentically. It shows the messiness of humanity, even his devout followers. We get a peek under the hood of them, their lives, what their lives could have been like, what their struggles and inner turmoils could have been. And that only gets deeper and heavier and more magnificent as the seasons go on. But to his core, Dallas and the writers, it's like authenticity. There's 4 things that every single thing done at The Chosen has to tag into. And it's our core brand values. And it's literally like we couldn't separate ourselves from that if we tried. It's authentic, intimate, playful, and disruptive. We're intentionally all 4 of those things.
Say those again. Those are good.
Intimate, authentic, disruptive, and playful.
Wow.
There's the 4th one. That's not one that commonly comes around in faith-based content.
No. That is what actually gets us the most respect in traditional Hollywood, is that we are willing to poke fun at ourselves. We're willing to poke fun at ourselves as Christians. We're willing to just have a lot of fun, especially on social media. We have a lot of fun. And Dallas is a really funny guy. Like more funny behind closed doors than people realize, but he's a great fun. So it's just to the core of who we are, how we do things.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that I had the privilege, because I know you invited Chris Valentin out to Washington, D.C. to The Chosen, The Messengers at Christmas a couple of years back. And he couldn't make it. Yeah. So his assistant said, Fab, would you like to go and represent Bethel? And I was like, obviously you were there representing many different things, but like I went and I met the people from Angel Studios, and a good friend of mine was representing Mary Magdalene at the time, and it was just beautiful to see that episode. I think what stood out to me was the relationship between Mary and Joseph in that opening scene, and how you made it so human. Because before, what we have in these epic things, we have, Robert Powell playing Jesus and Jesus of Nazareth, and it feels like a production from the RSC. It doesn't feel tangible. It doesn't feel real. It feels very, very precious. But I love about what you've done with The Chosen is made it so human and relatable. And that's what I was, obviously I'd seen it way before I'd been there, but I was just like, this is something very special. And now your audience way transcends just faith-based, right?
Absolutely. We're in every country in the world. Every vein of humanity is represented in our audience. Our most rabid fan base is probably, to a degree, almost entirely Christian, sure. But outside of that rabid fan base, it's Muslims, it's Buddhists, it's agnostics, it's Hindus, it's atheists, it's every vein of Christianity coming together, unified, going, okay, this is the Jesus that I know. And we finally see it depicted. Even our cast, who are vastly non-Christian, I do PR training with them a lot, and they always say what they love most is the humanity of the show, the humanity behind the characters they get to play, and the privilege that they feel like they understand the impact they're making around the world, even if this isn't their faith-based buy-in. And that's huge. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
I'm curious about because I can already hear some of the church potentially either surprised or offended, which we do really well in the church. It's one of our specialties. But why have non-Christians play such iconic Christian? What was the thinking behind that? Because clearly the core creatives behind the scenes are fully devoted to Christ. So I'm just fascinated because I've heard 2 different takes on these types of decisions. Those core creatives who are Christians who say we will only have Christians on set, and then the creative choice that you guys made. So given the makeup of your core creative team, let us in, if you can, on the thinking of having non-Christians.
Yeah, so anyone that actually makes creative decisions for The Chosen is definitely held to that standard. But to work at The Chosen, to be cast for The Chosen, to crew for The Chosen, and you don't have any creative say over the actual content, there's zero litmus test apart from, are you a good person? Are you going to work hard? Are you enjoyable to work around? Are you going to because when you crew, you're giving your full self to a production.
It's a 16-hour a day relationship.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
And so we look at it and we go, Jesus didn't have a litmus test of who he let hang around with him. He only did for those that chose to follow him. And for us, it's just going, okay, he held those that chose to follow him to a high standard.
What's been the fruit of that risky decision? Because I mean, I think some would see that as a risky decision, or certainly
a lot of people are angry at us.
A lot of people are pissed at you. Yeah, going back to my earlier statement, we're great at offense. But what has been the fruit of that decision?
I mean, I have never seen a culture that has constant chaos thrown at them still so peaceful.
Wow.
I have never seen ever, this amount of worldviews, faith backgrounds, belief systems coexist in unity aimed at the goal of truly impacting the world with the authentic Jesus.
Wow.
Like, we have a favorite story is we have top Hindus from Silicon Valley, like top tech geniuses, Hindus going, this may not be the God I serve, but this show is bringing the light back to even my people.
Wow.
How can I help? How can I quit my insanely huge salary job in Silicon Valley and come help you guys?
He's just undeniable.
Yeah.
Jesus is just undeniable. He's fragrant to everybody.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I love what you do as well. I think you texted me an episode that you did on YouTube about getting, you didn't tell them what the show was. And you had a mixture of, I don't think anybody was faith-based in that episode.
We found out some were. One was seeking, and a few had been raised in it. Unfiltered Gen Z reacts to The Chosen.
Can you just explain that? Because it was, I watched it. I think you sent me the link to it.
I'm raising a couple of those. I can't wait to hear this.
You sent me the link to it, and they were explain it to our audience so you can.
So it was it's called Unfiltered Gen Z Reacts to The Chosen, and the premise was we're going to bring together 9 Gen Zers from around the world of varying faith backgrounds, worldviews, you name it. Some we knew their backgrounds from the casting calls and stuff. We just learned some from them. I did the casting. And I scrubbed the internet of my name. They couldn't Google us and figure us out. We just said, hey, we're a global phenomenon show. We promise we're not trying to traffic you. Please come to Salt Lake City, film with us. We're going to have you binge our show and together. And we just want your honest take, the good, the bad, the ugly. We just ask that you show up. You're emotionally vulnerable. You critically analyze. And if you hate it, you're honest with us.
And they were going to be filmed.
Yeah.
And they were filmed the whole time.
Yeah.
Talk about Isaiah 54 too, because that was my project to date. This is my most my Mount Everest, my most my prized possession is this piece of content. And we intentionally were like, hey, we're not going to go out of our way to avoid the LGBTQ conversation. We're not going to go out of our way to press into trauma unnecessarily. We're going to be whatever these 9 individuals show up as 90% of the time. We are not going to do any post-production magic. We are going to be authentic to who they showed up. So there's a lot of stuff we intentionally left out that would have been cinematic gold because we're like, that's not authentic to who 90% of the time they represented themselves to be. And it was, you got to watch it, David. It was magical.
It's amazing.
We were in Video Village the entire day just weeping. And then it was so powerful that we call him back to surprise them with a conversation with Jonathan Rumi because they all thought he was super hot. He plays Jesus. And so we surprised them with Jonathan. And then Jonathan just drops a prophetic bomb on one of the cast. And the cast starts weeping. And it's, oh my gosh, it's earth-shattering good. I'm still in contact with these guys all the time. They're my Gen Z babies. But we actually did a watch party with the cast of Gen Z and our Chosen cast. And keep in mind, these are none of them are really Christians. One, through the binging, became a Christian. It was pretty awesome. And our cast, that was a turning point for our cast.
How so?
Because these 9 individuals showed up and they're cool. These kids are cool, right? They're and they hate Christianity on the most part. And the way they authentically were able to have honest conversation about the good, bad, ugly of Christianity and wrestle with it. And we allowed them to wrestle. We gave them a place to seek truth. Our cast went, whoa. This is what you guys are about, The Chosen? Okay, so we saw a huge increase And the cast being willing to do press, being willing to engage even in the faith side of things, because they're in terms of press or marketing or events, because they're going, okay, like if this is the impact the show is having, where all 9 of their lives were positively affected, like hugely positively affected, some even becoming Christians. Our cast, it was so cute. They were fanboying over our Gen Z cast.
Oh, wow.
It was amazing because we brought the Gen Z cast to Feeding of the 5,000. And in between takes, the whole cast were coming over to our Gen Z cast and just like fanboying over them. Wow. And they're all like these 20-year-old kids going, oh my gosh. Wow. It was really precious. So yeah, so we want to take that binge concept and do one in prisons or do one, like we really want to evolve the concept.
That's amazing. Where do you think,
like a spin-off series?
Yeah, like, The Chosen is impacted. I mean, it's probably, I would say it's probably not the only, but I would say it's the biggest piece of faith-based content that has really impacted the world. There have been some other decent faith-based movies out there that I don't think have had anywhere near the audience that you guys have had. Where do you think we go wrong as Christian storytellers? That we actually neglect a huge part of our audience? Like, where do you think we go wrong, and where do you think we can improve?
I can just say what I know that we do that answers a big void. Mm-hmm. So I'll look at it from the positive. I think as Christians, sometimes we can be so dogmatic of we don't want to like color outside the lines at all. Mm-hmm. And you can only do that out of relationship with Jesus. You can only do that with the right team. And the right team isn't always going to be your direct peer who believes everything you believe. Mm-hmm. It takes the body for a reason. And so that's what works so well at The Chosen is Dallas is so great at bringing together very diverse philosophies, theologies, thoughts of mind. And he's very okay. He's like very okay to color outside the lines and go, okay, it's probable that Eden could have had a miscarriage. Like we catch a lot of, or that Mary Magdalene, kind of had a fall from grace. Mm-hmm. The amount of uproar that Christians were, if you walk that close to Jesus, you would never fall away. And we're like, well,
what about Judas?
How about Peter?
All of them.
Oh,
David.
Goodness. I mean,
so it's just, so I think.
What Bible are we reading?
I know, but that's the thing.
We're willing to unintentionally disrupt even Christians. And that because I've worked in faith content for close to 20 years now, almost nobody's willing to do that.
No, and let's get honest. I mean, the problem is that it holds quality hostage. If I'll say it, it holds quality hostage when we don't color outside the lines. I don't know what Jesus we're looking at who doesn't draw outside the lines. Mm-hmm. He flipped over tables. He flipped over the political spirit, the religious spirit. There wasn't any line that he didn't, the only line he didn't cross is doing what the Father did and saying what the Father said in the intimate relationship that he had with his Abba. Other than that, he was absolutely revolutionary, and our content sucks for the most part because we sanitize it, we whitewash it. It's like we do the Pharisaical thing over and over and over again, and then we assume that because somebody puts Jesus or the Christian thing on it, that we're owed an audience, and we're constantly surprised why people won't come out for these horrendous films that do not have anything closely resembling human beings walking in them. And then the irony of what you guys have pulled off is that somehow I think you have pulled off the greatest ecumenical Unintentionally. I mean, how on earth have you gotten enough? Let me ask you something. Do you walk scripts? Like I knew a writer who was on Sesame Street, and they would talk about how they would bring in the Catholic, some of the dioceses and whatnot in New York, because they were reaching, families and so on and so forth. So there was a kind of a process that they walked scripts and stories through around the theological questions and maybe something else, the historical. Is there a process that you guys walk your stories through, and what does that look like to the extent you can share?
We have biblical scholars that oversee and vet every script. We also have a Jewish advisory board.
Oh, I love that.
Not Messianic Jew, Orthodox Jewish advisory board, based out of, I think all of them are based out of Israel.
Wow.
So they review scripts. Huh. And just even the response from the Jewish community has been really stunning.
What does that look like from them? What are they saying? What do you
This is the first, you are a Jewish show. Like anytime I go to Israel, it's like your show is showing us, we had no idea Jesus was Jewish. Like he was actually Jewish. And you guys you make him Jewish. You don't whitewash him. You don't take away that richness of his heritage and his faith. Like Jesus was Jewish, and Dallas will tell anyone that's listening, we are a Jewish show. 100%. We are not a Christian.
That's gotta piss people off.
He's like, we are not a Christian show. Like, he has not died and returned from the dead yet. Like, we are a Jewish show. He and all of his disciples are Jews.
Yep.
Wow.
And we have to remember that. And so we've had a lot of really positive feedback of just thank you for representing us fighting to represent us so accurately. Thank you.
This is nothing short of miraculous.
We always say, we always just have to stop ourselves and go, okay, let's remember this really isn't our genius at work here. It's elements of our gifting, but there is an anointing on this project that we couldn't make up again if we tried.
It was so unique. I remember when I saw Dallas on Facebook talking about the crowdfunding, and there was an opportunity to invest in it. And it's one of my investments that I wish, aside from all the other investments that I wish I would have invested
Jewish
in.
Moment. This is Fab with his sackcloth going, oh, had I only invested in the chosen.
If only, exactly. It was, but anyway, I am so glad that it is doing what it is doing.
Okay, but I got to ask the quintessential kind of Hollywood question. I'm being slightly tongue-in-cheek here. When you have a success like this, I would have to imagine that you guys are trying to understand what's at work under the hood, because people can only watch one show. People want more shows like this. People want to be able to watch shows like this every night of the week, or sit down on a Friday night like me with my 7-year-old and be like, hey, let's watch something where I'm not going to get a curveball at minute 78. I'm not asking for future projects per se, unless you want to share, but what kinds of content should the church be busy making? What do you think The Chosen is about to break open or has broken open in the content space?
I mean, even across Hollywood in general, obviously we've completely spurred every major studio to finally understand faith content. Like, it needs to be taken seriously. That's awesome. And that it can be done really well. That it took us a long time to break into kind of the quintessential Hollywood mold, if you will, in terms of the trades and et cetera, because there is just such a disgust with faith content. It's just a natural reaction. So we've had to, I think we as Christians need to do better, just accepting like, hey, that's a hurdle we have to overcome, and it's on us to overcome it.
Yep.
It's not on them.
What do we overcome it with?
So I think the huge part that's really, that every studio is looking outside of faith. They're going, you're the new wave of Hollywood because you're community to your core. And that's a piece that they've never really given credence to its whole. And same with probably a lot of faith-based projects. And let's be honest, most churches don't even do community well. And it's not a critique. I just think it's something we need to focus more on. And so that is, a huge part of my job is how do I build community, linking arms with the international team to build it on the global scale.
Wow.
And it's a key ingredient to The Chosen, community.
Yeah. We were talking about the Bible, like what Bible are people reading when we get back to faith-based content? Because when I read the Bible, if I read Song of Songs, I'm like, that's freaking intimate. The Bible probably would not, the church probably would not touch that if we were to make a show around that. And I'm like, it's in the freaking Bible. Like, the Bible, if you were to read it, would be R-rated. And I'm not saying that we should go out and be edgy for edgy's sake. But I do feel like we are missing the mark so much in the content, because, to be honest, you film a lot of the Bible, it's going to be expensive. There's battle scenes. There's a lot of expensive stuff in there that people may not like. How do we, I don't know even if I know how to phrase this question, but the next wave of, say, faith-based content, because you wouldn't say that The Chosen necessarily was faith. It's epic. It's just epic. It's about the life of Jesus. So by default, it's faith-based, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily a faith-based audience. So how do we bring these things to life? Because I know you used to work for Mark and Roma. That's great. But Ben-Hur, for the budget, I thought it was disappointing. So how do we bring even indie budgets, big budgets about the Bible to life that don't suck?
So projects like Ben-Hur and so many others that I've seen greenlit, the workers are few. Mm-hmm. And I am, until coming to work from The Chosen, I'm one of one that I was aware of in the industry. Obviously there are so many out there, but you have people in key decision-making seats, because I find so few Christians, one of two things happen. They don't tap into the perseverance, a gift of the Spirit, to be able to have the longevity to climb from the trenches of unpaid intern like myself, PA, on film sets, up to an executive on a global show, right? That takes... I'm going to be honest, that takes balls, right? That takes grit.
Yes, it does.
And it takes an utter reliance on Jesus, especially when you've got no formal training, anything. It's either that, people just tap out because it's brutal. Or they tried, because I probably delayed my career by at least a decade because I just refused to play the Hollywood game. I just refused. I just said, I'm going to stay true to who you've made me to be, Jesus.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I ever stopped being sly. I was very sly, very innocent, but very sly. I didn't just start prophesying over everyone in every hallway. Like you just can't.
No.
And then the other part is so many people try to smell the amount of Christians I meet in Hollywood that don't smell like the blood of Jesus anymore. I'm sure they started out smelling like the blood of Jesus. At least I would like to hope they did. I mean, huge faith leaders that I would meet, huge faith voices in entertainment. And you're just like, I don't smell Jesus on you at all. And so when I say workers are few, I mainly mean that. Who can be at the helm of making these multi-million, billion-dollar decisions, but from the abiding presence of the Lord, not from man-made wisdom. And so anytime I'm given a mic, I'm just going, please learn to hear his voice. Please let him mold you and shape you, and don't care where the end, because this isn't the end for me. I could be a waitress tomorrow. I don't know, and I don't care. I mean, that wouldn't be fun, but I mean, I really like eating French fries, so I guess that part would be great. But that's my point, is I'm more obsessed with, do I still smell like Jesus? And Jesus, if it's your will, would you put me in front of kings and queens so that I can help make a Ben-Hur that captivates the world?
Where can people find The Chosen?
We have a Chosen app. You can find us on Netflix, Amazon. We're trending on Netflix right now. I just found out. It was pretty fun. Roku. We're in all the places.
Anywhere and everywhere where you binge or consume.
But season 4, we're coming to theaters. We're going to be the first TV show ever to release fully in theaters, the full season.
When can we anticipate that?
So we will release February 2nd.
Wow.
Our premiere will be in January.
You're breaking all the molds. All of them. Disrupting.
Full throttle ninja black level story.
All of them.
Katherine, thank you so much for coming in. I will say you're such a unicorn, aren't you? On so many levels, unconventional, disruptive, and it's inspiring. It's inspiring to me hearing you talk, and I know it's going to be hugely, hugely inspiring to our audience. And I say thank you. Thank you for taking the time out and doing this.
Thank you for what you're both doing, BCA. I mean, it's needed. And the impact you both are making is the ripple effect is felt. And the more of us that can just link arms together, and the better. I think The Chosen is proving that. So I just thank you guys. Thanks for just being my friends.
Oh, it's so lovely having you. Well, listen, thank you so much for watching this episode with the amazing Katherine Warnock. We look forward to seeing you next time.
See you soon.